Welcome, everyone, to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind review, where we sit down and talk about some of our favorite film franchises of the past. On this season, we are talking about some of our favorite video game movies. Well, favorite's a strong word.
Yeah, I would not say favorite.
I wouldn't say favorite. Some of the, maybe video game graveyard that we could talk about, video game movie graveyard.
A hand-picked selection of video game movies. Because we truly did hand-pick these, and it actually... I think like the Chris Nolan one was one that took us a while, but out of all the Rewind reviews that we'd ever done, I think this list took us the longest.
There's a lot to choose from.
It's a Delco nerd curated list of video game.
And I feel like we got a good gambit of like time. We don't have like super modern day stuff like a Sonic or anything.
Yeah, like we always were like, oh, we could do Sonic, like the Sonic movies together, or like even like. Why do the first Resident Evil movie when there's like 7 of them, and like maybe we can do something else with them. Yeah.
But he's talking now. Joining me as always, Mr. Anthony the Gooch Ragucci. Gooch, how are you?
I'm doing well. This week has actually been kind of iffy. I think for both of us.
Yeah,
we were kind of talking before. It's been, it's nice to sit down, but Trio, this may be the most important podcast of your life. For me, it's just another Sunday.
It's terrible, Gooch, how little reference.
That was a pretty interesting line.
It was. I got to say, there was one good one that made me laugh. It was you got paid. I was like, oh, that's where this comes from. Or
Zangief.
He's like, you got paid for this. Either way, though, Street Fighter, man. I have no connection to this game franchise. I don't really know much about this movie. But before
wait. Say what we're reviewing.
Yeah. We did. I was gonna say, but to start off the season here, if you will, we're talking Street Fighter, initially released December 23rd of 1994, with a production budget of $35 million, an opening weekend of $9.5 million. And
wait, what was the budget?
The budget was $35 million.
What was the opening box office?
The opening box office was 9.5. Pretty good, actually.
Okay, yeah,
and then
that's not bad.
No, and it ended up making pretty good money in the end. A total box office of $99.4 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. With the writer and director of Steven D'Souza. A little description here for you. In the midst of a civil war in Southeast Asia, a general intensifies the climate of violence by kidnapping 63 UN delegates. To free the hostages, a colonel leads a group of fighters who will have to use all of their skills to be successful.
Not entirely true, but good enough.
No, I think that. I mean,
he doesn't lead. He leads them in the end, but like he's not leading all the fighters.
Right. Sure.
During most of the movie,
it ends with that. Sure. So. Anyways, Gooch, let's get into it here, man.
Going back to Street Fighter, so you said you really have no connection to the games or this movie.
I really
First
have
time
nothing.
watching for both of us.
Absolutely. I mean, I've definitely heard about this movie before. I've heard about some of the issues. I mean, you hear about Van Damme all the time, of course. I know one of the big things at the time when this was created, Mortal Kombat was being set up at the same time, and they also wanted Van Damme really bad for Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
But he ended up going with Street Fighter because Capcom they wanted him for some, they were like, he has to be the guy.
It's interesting that like in the 90s, the two of the most popular games at the time were fighting games, and they both got movies right at the same time, which is interesting. It's like, we really haven't seen any Street Fighter movies since. Like there's some anime films, but I don't really think that really counts. And
there was a follow-up to this, right, too?
No.
I thought there's like a Chun-Li movie, I thought.
Oh.
Yeah, Legend
We can look at that later. Yeah. I was like, I didn't think there was, but because Mortal Kombat had 2 movies and then recently got rebooted and is getting a sequel, which is pretty interesting. And our pick for the first movie was we wanted to do something from the 90s, and it's like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. And I was like, we could save Mortal Kombat for something else. I think it'd be cooler if we did Street Fighter, especially since like I wanted to cover games that like we also know, but we also don't know.
Right.
And Street Fighter is a blind spot for both of us. I really don't think I played much Street Fighter at all. I know the characters, but like as for the story,
I was gonna say
and how characters connect, I couldn't.
So that was gonna be my question to you. Like, I don't know what the game of the story of the game itself is. It's just a tournament in the game. I believe.
Dude, if you were to tell me there was some sort of semblance of narrative in Street Fighter 2, I would tell you you're lying.
No, that would make sense to me as well.
There probably is not a big through line of like, oh, it's just some like tournament and
I think it
just
is
like MK is.
Yeah. I think it's like somewhat bordering on that. Again, I'm sorry. If you want someone here with in-depth Street Fighter lore, you've come to this podcast for that. I do apologize up front because we are not those folks. But it is interesting how they take this, I don't know, this wartime approach to it, where it's like the Colonel is fighting what's his name, Bison. I will say a lot of this did kind of wash over me. I
actually kind of had a relatively good time with it. Is it like good? Not really, but I don't really think it's actually that bad either. Like I think it's it's in the movie category on the Luke Kenny review system. I think it's definitely in the movie category.
Okay. All right.
I don't really like, again, I think the practical effects are really good. Like, I thought the set design, even the costumes, as goofy as they look, I feel like they kind of feel appropriate.
And they work for the time, I think, too.
Yeah, like something about it like actually works. But like as for the narrative and maybe like the why of it, like Chun-Li being a reporter was a bit strange to me. And then like Balrog and like Honda are like her like crew. Right. And it's just like, are they even connected in the games at all? Like I don't know where we're like pulling that from. And the M. Bison stuff works.
I think so too.
That's pretty accurate, but yeah.
I don't know if he is like a warlord in the game. I think because he takes like
he's definitely one of the villains.
Yeah, for sure. But again, it's from them taking a totally different approach to it, just with the way that I guess the narrative works. Because this is just like a wartime thing. Again, it is funny having Van Damme play the all-American Colonel Giles, because that accent, Guile, thank you, is just so goofy. I mean, again, it just feels like the story just kind of keeps going, and I almost have trouble like really wrapping my mind. So it starts around Ryu and Ken at like the fighting ring, right? I guess it starts a little bit before that.
I mean, it starts off with like Chun-Li on the news report,
right?
And
she's
then
giving the
Guile
whole
shows
update.
up, and then it kind of switches to Ryu and Ken, which for them, I was like, they felt like so unnecessary, and I'm like, aren't you two the main guys of Street Fighter? Why are you like kind of sidelined as like the secondary like main character?
I think that's also kind of the problem with this movie. There's just so many characters, and D'Souza, I think, even said when I was like looking up some stuff on this, he initially only had like 6 characters in it, or maybe 9, and then Capcom just kept coming back and be like, we want 2 more. I think by the end there was only one.
Zangief and DJ in there as like throwaways,
basically cameos.
I mean, like Zangief, I think was pretty good. I think like he worked well, but DJ, like, barely had any lines until the end of the movie.
Again, they all are kind of almost glorified cameos to a degree for a good bit of them. They're trying to do an ensemble film.
Even like Cammy feels...
She's just there.
Yeah, she is just there.
I guess the whole idea is we are focusing on Guile, but it's just so unfocused to me that I didn't even really know what we were trying to progress towards. Like, I get we were trying to free these 63 hostages. Bison took that, and then he's also trying to like create a super soldier who's that big green guy. What character is that?
Blanca.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. I didn't know. If you would have told me that Blanca was maybe named Carlos Blanca and then was turned into that thing, I would not have been able to.
Never known.
I just kind of assumed Blanca was just like the green, orange-haired creature character.
Again, I think that was completely made up for this movie. A lot of the names were made up for it too. I'll get into that, and not like their first names, but their like last names. Like Chun-Li, I forget Zhang. Yeah, that's not used. But like I think the only ones they continued using after this was Ken and Cammy, from what I gathered. But yeah, a lot of odd changes to just, I guess, the lore, as far as someone who enjoys, Street Fighter can tell as much as I was looking up online. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else we can get into here. I did think a lot of the fighting was a little bit subpar. Fighting,
Street, not a lot of fighter. Like I really think that like the biggest negative I think of this movie is like there is just not enough fighting. It's mostly all at the end, and there's a lot of cutting. And you have Jean-Claude Van Damme. I've seen him fight in films.
It's like the whole point you get him.
Is like a great example of a film where he is just on display as I don't know what you call him, a martial artist. Mm-hmm. And he is kicking ass. And this, it's like he's fighting Bison and cut. Like I'm like, dude, you're not really. I'm like, where you got him? You're not really using him.
The only fight that I really liked was Chun-Li like beating the shit out of Bison.
I was kind of waiting for like the video game, like they're like going side. It's the
the pan shot,
yeah, like
the flat shot, where it's tracking with them.
Like I was kind of waiting for that, and I was like, that would have been kind of cool. Like I know we go like for Doom is 2 movies from now, we're going to be doing Doom from 2005. And I know Doom does the first person gun thing. Like, I'm kind of asking for that in the Street Fighter movie because I feel like you can make a really cool perspective shot from that and be like, oh, like we're kind of just like calling back to the game.
It almost surprises me more that they didn't, like that they had like the reservation
but
to
then
not do that.
M. Bison's like control panel is an arcade stick.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed, and he goes, "Game over." It's like, what? Do we need that?
Oh,
the control stick fighting thing was kind of like funny.
Yeah, it's a nod.
Like not really. Like it was like in some shots, but not really. They weren't really talking about it. But the game over thing was like, oh my god.
It felt like that thing that you have to do in a video game movie, especially at that time. Again, I'm just surprised they didn't do the actual like setup and track with the camera. I just felt like the fighting overall was just very lackluster. Even like those characters that were involved in who's the guy with the eye patch?
So Sagat?
Yeah, and like he has a big beef with Ryu and Ken, but then that's like kind of
there's just too much going on.
I am genuinely having trouble like pinpointing things to talk about just because I feel like there was so much happening in this movie, and I think that is kind of a fault of it for me.
I wanted to go back to Ryu and Ken because I just felt like they felt so secondary. Also, the guy who played Ken just felt really not a good casting.
He was just there.
Yeah, like I'm like he doesn't look like a fighter. Like okay, the Ryu guy is a bit smaller than let's say.
In the game or whatever, right?
I mean, but even like Guile or Van Damme, but like I could buy it.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't like normal to get, especially at that time, to get like super buff, like Van Damme,
dude.
Yeah, no, he was fucking ripped too, but that was very rare. I mean, you know, like John Wayne was very fit for the time. Obviously, that's even further back, but like I think Jean-Claude Van Damme in this is like ripped for the time. And yeah, that guy's what's that character's name again with the metal mask?
Vega, dude. He looked incredible.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh my, I was actually surprised. I was like, he looks like he just came out of the game. Where like Chun-Li, you know, cool to see Ming-Na Wen. I knew she was in this, but like, you know, pre-Mulan, pre-Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I feel like this movie kind of like catapulted her career.
She stands out the most. I mean, she looks great, especially in that red outfit by the end.
See, I didn't love the red outfit because I kind of wish this is the blue one.
It should be blue. I just thought it's funny. I didn't think she looked super Chun-Li. I guess she did because you know she has the hips and like the tights and all that. But I just thought she looked great. And that moment when she does the flying kick, I did think was pretty good. And I think she was probably the standout for me in this movie overall.
I would agree. I think Van Damme just stands out because it's Van Damme.
And he's silly and he's talking his Belgian accent.
It's hard to like ignore him.
It is. And I don't know. I just don't think he's like, maybe it's sacrilege. I just don't think he's that great of an actor in this. Like they wanted him because he looked like Giles.
I really don't think he's ever really been that good of an actor.
No,
I think it's just like he's a good like stunt fighter guy. And like
you get him for your action movies, right? Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Overall, I just felt like the movie kind of washed over me. I do think that if I had more of a connection to Street Fighter, it would have connected more.
I feel like you say that kind of often for some reason.
I don't think so. I think this one specifically,
at least with Rewind reviews, I've maybe like some of the Charlie Browns where it's like,
that I definitely did. Yeah,
I'm like,
for sure.
I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I kind
because
of get
it just
but
doesn't like I don't know. It doesn't stick in my mind. I don't think about it afterwards that much.
I'm not thinking about it either, but I can definitely like pick
I'm even
to
finding
talk
it
about it.
Right. I'm even actually finding it hard to like pick out things where I was like, oh, I thought that was like really interesting or that was good. It just was like.
What did you think of like the Vietnam, Thailand setting with like, you know, instead of like, I don't know, you don't have like your typical like army fatigues, you have this like blue color and it's like instead of the UN, it's like the allied nations and like, you know, they're kind of like calling back to real world conflicts, but like changing it up a little bit. It does visit Vietnam kind of styling to it, which I think is kind of interesting
approach, for sure. And I think it's very much of the time, or at least you know post.
It's in the
Cold
90s.
War and stuff like that. So
it was like the last
very
like
much,
you know the Cold War not being a traditional conflict.
Sure, like
Vietnam
a hot war,
being
right?
Yeah, the last big conflict we were involved in.
One thing I did like was the boat chase at the end. I thought it was kind of fun and wild. I'm like, why are we getting it?
The stealth sub?
Yeah, it just felt like I was like, wow, we built out all these boats. You got this it feels like they're really kind of trying to shoot for something here, and it kind of hits. But again, I think we just all of a sudden we're in Bison's lair, and like I was like, wait, how did Giles get here again? Didn't he just die? I don't know. I guess I did find this movie overall just a little boring, funnily enough. And
I think
I would have found it a bit
end
more
is a bit
interesting.
long.
It is.
I think like I was kind of like interested to see where it was progressing to, and then we got to the progression where it's like, okay, we're going to do like a 2-pronged attack on like Bison's like under this like temple base thing.
And also, why did the UN come in and go like, stop? We're not. Don't,
because they were gonna give him the money,
right?
And I guess like try to be diplomatic.
That guy was so posh about it.
And Bison was not going to be diplomatic about it,
right? Yeah. Again, another thing that kind of felt like it was there to propel us forward a little bit and just kind of out of left field. I don't know. Either way. I did enjoy my time with it. I felt like it was a brief, like 90, I think it was 80 or 100 minutes. It's
an hour and 40.
So it did feel like it passed in that time, and I appreciate that.
You didn't really feel like it was long at the end?
Not at the end. It didn't really stick with me.
I felt like it was like, all right, let's
wrap it up here. It did feel like we would have
Bison getting resurrected.
Right.
Another fight.
That is true. Because I felt like, all right, we're in here. They're fighting. He's dead. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, man, Guile's dead. He's not coming back. Guile is dead. He's not coming back. And then he just comes through the smoke. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm here. I made it. We're good.
Van Damme has a lot of, like, corny lines.
It's insane. I don't know, man. I don't know. Interesting film. It's definitely of its time for sure. Yeah. And you can tell that the money was put into it. Like you said, with the sets, they're in these like nature locations. Apparently that was hell. I'll get into it in the fun facts, but yeah, they definitely committed to it.
Yeah, like none of it seemed cheap. Like when they blow up that tent, when there's like when Sabat like kind of like starts to cross Bison with like the weapons deal, and they blow that thing up, that looked really good.
It did.
Like they blew that camp up. Like you can tell. I don't know if there was like the lightning I remember is like some digital effects, but like I can't really like nothing stuck
most
out
of it's in
like,
camera.
Wow, that looked cheap.
A lot of pyrotechnics and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
like I kind of have to like get like I'm not gonna like really praise this film all that much, but I feel like those details need to be pointed out and appreciated.
And I can appreciate the commitment, like you said, to the costumes, to like the world in these kind of odd ways. You know who Bison kind of really reminded me of, even the way he like kind of grabbed his belt and everything. It felt very Darth Vader-y to me, with his cape and everything, and like even like he would like kind of push apart his cape and grab his belt like Vader does and stuff like that. I felt like there was a lot of inspiration, even the way he like kind of walked around. I do think the dictator angle is interesting with it, instead of just making it.
Did you like the problematic salute? I was like, that's very Nazi-esque.
Yeah, and I think that's on purpose, probably. But
yeah.
To evoke that,
sure would not be done today. This is a similar vein, totally different topic. I wonder if they made the first Avenger today, would they do the Hydra salute? They only do it like once or twice. Like it's not often where the Hydra people in the first Avenger do the Hydra salute, but it's it's a play on the Nazi
no,
salute.
for sure. I don't know. I would hope we're not that dumb at this point where you can't you can't have an obviously bad person doing a Nazi salute. You know what I mean?
Close to it.
Yeah, like it's like because it's obviously supposed to be he's inspired by fascism. He's inspired by like Mussolini and stuff.
Yeah, you see like there's like propaganda posters,
all that stuff. And I think even when I was doing my research, it's a bit
it's a bit corny. Like,
for sure, it's on the nose.
Bisonopolis, know, like it's like it's
very cartoonish villain.
Yeah, but again, I think that kind of fits Street Fighter and the way these characters look. Like it doesn't. It's not taking me out. Mortal Kombat, if something like that didn't, I would say Mortal Kombat might take itself a little bit more seriously than Street Fighter because it's not Japanese.
And that did feel like, and I don't know how much story it had from the beginning, but especially now, Mortal Kombat's super lore heavy and story chock full. But I mean, obviously, we knew about the tournament back when the first game came out. I just don't know how much story is within that game.
I mentioned in my Letterboxd review, this feels like a modern day fighter story where we stop, fight, and then the narrative picks up, stop, fight, narrative picks up. Like, I mean, there's like when they're shooting their guns, like I kind of counted that. Like there's a few action scenes, but yeah, I don't know. Like it's not that it doesn't work. I just kind of like, I'm watching this movie because this is a video game movie. Right. It was made when Street Fighter 2 was one of the biggest games like on the planet.
It's one of the earliest video game movies too. Yeah.
And that's why we picked it, because like we needed something from the beginning. I didn't want to do Super Mario Brothers, and we could always save that for something else too. I'm surprised you didn't mention that.
I was thinking about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was just like,
I like the choices you had already.
Yeah, because I wanted to get stuff that's like kind of true to like what they're adapting.
Especially for this time, this is super true. And that's a very good point.
It's like Super Mario Brothers is nothing like the game, like except for like we're taking names, like, I'm not saying that like Street Fighter is exactly like the game, but it's taking the characters and kind of making it into a movie. They do that, you know.
It feels like you're taking it to a more extraneous place with Mario Brothers. Like they're just taking like it is an interpretation of Mario, but it's so wild and out there. Whereas Street Fighter is very much, you can see the parallels. They're making different choices with making it a war.
And I'm sure you know kids and teenagers kind of went out there, and this kind of they dug it. I'm sure the reception at the time wasn't totally horrible.
Well, I do think actually we'll get to the reception. So but I agree. I think that this is a very good example of these types of movies, especially from this time frame of just from these early years of video game movies and just even thinking to adapt them. Because this is when, I don't know, I feel like corporations were probably just realizing like, oh, these are getting like big. Like arcades are doing well. People love Mortal Kombat. They love Street Fighter. And, you know, I think arcades were still very big at the time. And that kind of leads me to believe that's the reason that this was kind of the first ones to pick up. Everyone was playing Mario. Everyone was playing Mortal Kombat. People were probably down playing Street Fighter all the time with your friends.
It's interesting that they kind of made these movies, especially a Mortal Kombat one, considering Mortal Kombat and a game called Night Trap. I'll let you look that up on your own if you're really interested. Yeah. But they were involved in a law dispute in the Supreme Court where they were the first time where like, our video game's too violent. The second time would be Doom with the Columbine shooting, and there's a few times after where like it hit the Supreme Court level. It's like we're really evaluating, and that actually this is video game history here. That court case with Mortal Kombat and Night Trap being used as like these are not appropriate for children. The ESRB comes out of that,
right?
That they were invented to be like you need to rate your game so that like. You know, these are being sold to kids, and like at the time, you could just go in. You could not argue it, but it was pretty funny. I just watched a documentary on the entire history of video games, and they talk about it a lot. And they had like, you know, people from like Nintendo and Sega, like kind of like defending games. And it was really interesting how like Sega was at the time saying like, no, we're marketing to adults, like we're not marketing to kids. So like anyone buying Mortal Kombat on Genesis, like that's not who we're marketing to. Right. Like it was interesting, but to go back before we move into the fun facts, because I think we're getting there. Did you have any comments on the acting? We talked about Van Damme
again.
A lot,
I think Chun-Li was the one. Like that was the one that felt the best to me. I think. What's his name who plays Bison? I'm forgetting. Jeez.
Raul Julia.
Yeah, Julia. I think he's great too. He's hamming it up. He seems to be really at least enjoying himself. But
we were talking about like before we started like this morning because I was like, do you have any fun facts about him? Because I know he passes away shortly after this movie is. I don't know if it's released or finished. And he was big in the 90s in the Addams Family, very famously as Gomez, and like I feel like he is a very classically 90s actor.
He really is, and he honestly an actor I wasn't super familiar with back in but like this time. But yeah, I definitely recognize him. I definitely thought of the Addams Family and all that.
Yeah.
I did not realize this was his last movie, and I had kind of just briefly looked at the facts last night before we chatted, and then I got more into it today. There was a great article from The Gamer, actually, I wanted to thank specifically, that had a lot of really good facts that I took from, but they did talk about his issues.
So did he die once the movie was done, but before it came out?
That's what I gathered.
Yeah, because there's a memoriam for him. So I was like, oh, okay. He obviously died before the movie came out.
Yeah, and I guess they weren't, I'll wait and get into it on fun facts. But yeah, I think he stood out the most. I think Chun-Li stood out the most. All the other characters just kind of faded into the background because they were just there.
The doll sim inclusion was insane. The professor with like the collar, I'm like, that's who that is.
And then he's like, I must undo my. Is that one right at the end?
Yeah, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, I did not expect this guy to become doll sim.
Oh, and by the way, Guile, just totally giving up your friend at the beginning. He's like, Charlie, I'm coming for you. You'll be safe. And then Bison walks around and goes, Charlie, looks like you're important. Why would you give up your guy like that? Come on. Yeah, fun stuff. Yeah. I think those were the standouts. What about you?
Yeah, I would kind of agree with you. I don't really think I think I liked Zangief. Like he felt like the comic relief of like, he's the big Russian guard and he says funny things.
He definitely stood out to me for sure.
Ken and Ryu were not standouts. Neither. I liked Honda. Balrog's hair was interesting.
Is he the peak?
Yeah, he's the boxer guy. E Honda was that he just recently died. The guy who played
really?
E Honda.
Oh, that's
yeah. Like last week, I think, which was kind of funny. But like I will say one thing about the acting in general. I don't think it's bad. I think it's probably what they were given. If you have any comment
I would agree
to it. Like it doesn't.
It's not on the actors. I would totally agree. with that.
Yeah.
It feels like the script.
Like I haven't really heard anybody talk about this film, but I would never be like it is total trash. Like no, it's. I think it's like it can be good and it can be bad, but it's kind of interesting, as again one of the first video game movies to kind of analyze and be like, how did they do it when they first started out in the '94?
Right. And again, it's just so interesting how much they genuinely did take from the game because I don't know, even with like TV shows and stuff like this back in the day or movies, like we're gonna make this is just a made up example. We're gonna make a Green Lantern movie, but he's gonna wear a black suit and he doesn't have a ring. It's like okay, but that's not Green Lantern. Okay, all right, make it. Like, I could have seen them making Street Fighter, and it looks nothing like the game. It's just Street Fighter in name, and it's just this bullshit movie. But I will give them a lot of credit for, committing to the bit and really putting everything on screen that they wanted to put on screen. I do feel bad for D'Souza, because this sound is like a fucking production from hell.
Real quick,
yeah.
Let's review it on the scale. I'm thinking low to mid-tier movie. I think I could wake up. I'll say low tier movie.
All right,
sure.
I'm bouncing. I'm on the edge, knife's edge here.
High tier film.
I think I'm no. Yeah, right. you got me, Gooch. You did. I don't know. I'm thinking I'll go low tier movie, especially for the impact it has on like video game cinema, if you will. So I think it's worth the watch. I do think, as I stated before,
I think if you're a Street Fighter fan, it's probably like entertaining.
You're gonna get so much more out of it, most likely.
And I feel like you've had to have heard about it being a fan.
And I think that was my biggest issue with the movie. I just didn't know. Like I understood narratively what was going on and like what they were setting up with this wartime thing.
You
but
don't
I'm like,
have the
how does
affinity.
this connect to Street Fighter at all? Is this even Street Fighter? And it apparently is in a lot of ways.
Fighter?
Why is Street Fighter?
I occasionally, I think in the very beginning of the line, they have a line about fighting in the streets or something like that. And then they'll go like, we're fighters, I'm like, yeah.
Fighters in the street. All right, let's get in some fun facts. You ready, Gooch?
I'm ready.
All righty.
Let's have some fun.
All right. This beat is sick. Okay. JCVD was a crucial element to this film in the eyes of Capcom, as they saw no one else playing the all-American Colonel Guile. His salary alone was $8 million of the $35 million budget.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what Ming-Na Wen was paid.
Probably not that much. Yeah, not even close. And so as far as Van Damme's time on Street Fighter, it was marked sadly by a lot of drug use. That drug being cocaine. Also showing up late and hungover almost every day to set. The studio hired a handler when he was hired to take care of Van Damme and keep him out of trouble, but he was so like enamored by Van Damme, he's like, let's go party. So he didn't even really stop him from going to party. He would show up on set every day, pretty hungover, very late, slow down everything. It seemed like it was not good. I also believe he had an affair with the woman who plays Cammy. They were kind of, having some fun on set.
Oh, yeah, dude, that scene at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Where he like puts his hand on her face. Like, what was that? There was no sexual tension this whole movie.
Yeah, it's insanity. You can definitely feel it. Especially by the end.
Hearing that he was on cocaine, I could kind of see it. I could kind of see it. Yeah. Like, he does seem like he's kind of like...
Yeah, he's just, what's going on, guys? And just, again, the accent doesn't help it when you're this American fucking commander. Okay. Capcom's repeated demands to add more characters to the movie led to multiple script rewrites, additional casting, and budget overruns, ultimately resulting in a film that diverged significantly from D'Souza's original vision, with many characters reduced to nothing but a cameo.
So another case of...
studio interference.
Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to be like, hey, we want to get all these characters represented, but like we don't really have the time, the budget, the narrative to get all these characters in appropriately. I think even fighting games with stories even find that difficulty today. It's like, how do we mash all these characters in together?
Right.
And like Injustice does it by always pairing two characters up together sometimes. And
You're
it's
right.
like, okay, you have a narrative around two people and maybe like two villains.
It's hard enough, like you're saying, when you have 9 hours to do a narrative with that many people, let alone an hour and 40 minutes. So if you're trying to jam it all into one movie, it's like a book. It's like trying to adapt anything. If you try and jam everything from that in the adaptation, It's just going to be a mixed bag.
I wonder if this gave way to Capcom then kind of doing, because there's a ton of Resident Evil movie. Well, there are a ton of live action Resident Evil movies. Right. Actually, like an insane, I think 10. Not counting, we have the Welcome to the Raccoon City. We have the Netflix show.
Yeah.
Then we have all those movies, which some are pretty good, some are pretty bad.
Yeah.
With Alice and
they're apparently making another one now.
They are?
Oh, did you know? I thought
they finished that.
Well, no. So this is totally separate and new from like the ones they've been doing on Netflix that didn't do well.
So
the guy who did
are they doing a sequel to Welcome to Raccoon City?
No, they're doing it's like a total reboot. I think it's from the guy who did what is it called? Barbarian and like some other really good horror movies. Who seems to like actually give a shit about Resident Evil. So I don't know. Maybe this could be something interesting.
Game adaptation?
I believe it's supposed to be more. Yeah, like
can we
actually
not
akin
adapt
to the game.
RE1, 2, or 3? Because they love doing that. It's like even like a movie of 4 would be interesting because I feel like it would be much more doable.
Cinematic and cinematic. Yeah.
Well,
and
like
sure.
I just feel like RE4. I mean, one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time has a very successful remake. Is much more smaller scale than RE2 and 3 are.
Really?
Where
Like
I think when you get Raccoon City into it, I think there's a lot more at play in that event going on. I mean, you have so you have Leon and Claire, right. And then Jill is around there at the same time.
Right.
Chris Redfield is involved because Jill not Jill. Because Claire Redfield's involved. I feel like it's like RE1 really RE2 and 3 really catapult off of RE1, and there's a lot more lore and connections in the mix that I feel like you have to explain, which is what Welcome to Raccoon City did. It's like, well, like, I'm Claire, I'm Chris Redfield's, sister. Where's Chris? Where's Chris?
Where's Chris? I need Chris.
Yeah, but it's fucking, there's Leon, and look, it's Wesker too.
Right.
Like there's so much. Whereas RE4 is like Ada shows up, and then there's the Wesker bit, but like it's just Leon and Hunnigan for the most part.
And I think you can rewrite that to where that stuff's not even that super. Like I think you can rewrite that down into a movie.
But I feel like any RE fan, like they have that in the back of their
for
skull.
sure. But you don't. It's not about the art. It's about the general public.
I think
need
that's
the general
why I
public.
appreciated the older set of movies, because they kind of like adapted the games, but like in their own way, and they didn't just use all those characters all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see like a proper adaptation, like that's like a real Hollywood budgeted movie, not like a Netflix movie.
Dude.
Yeah, no, I agree. Cool. Alrighty. So this was something I actually had issues with. I didn't realize that I did. So North American audiences in particular used to mispronounce Ryu's name, and we most likely, have this movie to thank for that. Damian Chapa, who portrays Kem, simply could not Whoa, man. I'm having issues today. Again, I don't know what's happening. He simply could not pronounce the name correctly. And by the end of the first day, D'Souza was like, okay, it's Ryu. We're doing Ryu for the rest of the shoot. You're going to call him Ryu. You can say it. That's fine. And as a result, most people in North America for like the past 30 years thought it was Ryu. But it's Ryu. Yeah. So, and I thought it was Ryu for honestly until I read this today. I thought it was Ryu.
I hear both, and I wouldn't shrug. It's kind of like Raiden and Raiden, like in MK. It's Raiden in Mortal Kombat, but like the character in Metal Gear Solid, it's Raiden.
Right.
But I feel like with Raiden from MK, especially, I hear both,
and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially because he's been around so much longer. Again, not so much longer, but anyways. Okay, so this is here with Raul. Raul Julia, who portrayed M. Bison, sadly passed away shortly before the release of this film. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer and underwent surgery shortly before filming began on Street Fighter. Production actually was not even aware of this before he showed up. And he was noticeably
like a Chadwick situation,
right? And he was like noticeably, I guess, just like slowed down on set, and like they could tell he was thinner.
I mean, if you think about it, he didn't really have a not very physical in any of his
for sure. I will say it didn't read through for me. I felt like he was projecting. He felt like he was having a good time, and he was being a bit campy with it. So I will give him some credit. in that respect.
Yeah, with his lines, but like he wasn't like being physical.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Thailand was chosen as a filming location for two main reasons: monetary incentives and the supposedly breathtaking landscapes that were actually breathtaking. Sadly, those landscapes plagued the cast and crew with many unexpected issues. Many actors fell ill because of the local food, which caused them to lose tremendous amounts of weight in the short amount of time. People got like skin rashes from the water. It
kind of reminds you of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I was about to say that. I was like very much a Raiders of the Lost Ark situation where people were just not having a good time on set. And apparently a lot of the guys were spending a lot of time at the massage parlors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And because they were having a lot of stressful days, of course. It was a lot of hard action fighting, so they needed, some resting time.
They needed a happy ending of sorts.
Absolutely.
To a day.
The final boat assault on Bison's Fortress was initially going to be an aerial assault, but the government of Thailand would not permit the use of their airspace, so it was rewritten.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. And apparently this was like, they were like, they were very annoyed about this. They had to like figure it out kind of last minute. I mean, they apparently did it because they got all those boats, but I would have been a little pissed off too. I mean, come on, Thailand. Just let people fly in your airspace. Street Fighter took many creative liberties with its source material, altering characters' nationalities, backstories, and the tournament structure to a military conflict. Many characters were even given last names. Ryu Hoshi, Chung-Li Zhang, and Victor Sagat are just a few of these. Most of these did not carry over to the game, however, except for Ken Masters and Cammy White. So their names stuck, and they are known as that in the game.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah, because I know Sabat is just...
He's just Sabat. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and again, that's like Ryu
I don't think
and all that.
Honda is... He's not Hawaiian in the games. He's just Asian. He's
makes sense.
Yeah, he's just a sumo wrestler. But I guess it's like, okay, we got to find a character like that.
Sure.
And then, okay, we find this Hawaiian sumo guy.
Kind of works, yeah.
They kind of,
It fits, I guess it fits in.
It fits. I think it fits, but it's also convenient.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
It makes it easier for them. As of 2018, the movie holds the second place for the record when it comes to the biggest drop-off in revenue from opening Friday to the following Saturday. While it made $3.1 million on its opening weekend, I think that's locally. It only managed to make $1.7 million the very next day, which is a solid 53 or 55% drop off.
So it has the second place for the biggest drop off in a film ever
in a week.
That's crazy.
But that's definitely been blown out by now. But I think more
because I think 2018.
This was as of 2018. I was looking for who holds the current record, but I was like,
that seems like semantics.
By the way, Google fucking sucks now. It's all AI bullshit slop. Every time I look up something, it's like, oh well, I think it's from blah blah blah. I'm like, no, just give me the article answers. It's so annoying. I think
you can shut a Google,
you probably can.
I
need to fuck with it, but I was getting very frustrated this morning when I was looking up stuff. Just
you're not the first time I've heard that.
It's so annoying, man. But yeah, that's it. That does it for Street Fighter. A fun watch. I'm glad we watched it. It's nice to have that notch under our belt. A seminal video game movie, if you will.
Yeah, I did want to read off. I kind of know off the top of my head, but I'm just getting the list out. So what do you think, what are we going to be doing for the rest of the Rewind review? So obviously we did Street Fighter just now. We're going to be doing Lara Croft Tomb Raider, just the first Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movie. Then we're going to be doing Doom, starring The Rock, from 2005. Then we're going to do Warcraft from 2016 and Assassin's Creed from 2016. Like I said, there's a lot of video game movies to pull from, but some of them just don't seem to make sense. Like I had Sonic in here. I was thinking Detective Pikachu. And I was like, Detective Pikachu.
That makes a little bit more sense than Sonic because it's just one, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, it's really not like the game, it takes...
I still think that's for sure. I still think we can still, review a movie like that because I think it is interesting to see like an interpretation. But I still agree with you on this one.
Yeah, I really wanted to I've been wanting to do this Rewind review for a while, and I wanted to do like a decent many movies, but there are a lot of movies from like 2016 to now. There are a ton.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more, but I was like, Assassin's Creed, I think we have to do.
Right.
I haven't rewatched that movie since we saw it in the theater, or I don't think I saw it with you.
I just remember being very bored in that movie, sadly.
And then Warcraft, I was like, I really liked that movie when I saw it. It's based on Warcraft 1.
I've never seen it. So
really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
cool.
Like this, I didn't see obviously. So
yeah.
I think actually I've seen Doom.
I've seen Doom. I've seen Tomb Raider. I've seen everything besides this movie. So everything we'll watch, I have seen.
I've seen Doom. I've seen Assassin's Creed. I've not seen Tomb Raider. So
really,
I've seen it in pieces, like
You're
on
in for
FX.
a treat, dude.
Yeah,
this
so
is good.
That one I'm actually
Craig's in it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Daniel
one I'm
Craig.
actually excited for.
It's
I really am.
good. I'm gonna watch both.
And again, I think I do have a bit more of a connection to Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
like, even if you haven't played the classics games, which I can bring the classic knowledge, which is great. Like, yeah,
I did buy those on sale the other day, so I have them. I want to get to them eventually.
Physically?
No, it was on digital.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Remember how I don't know when you said this, but you were like, "Oh, when we do the Rewind review, I want to buy."
I would love
movie."
to do it. I didn't do it for this one now.
No, but have you done that? Like, did you actually do that? Like, I
I'm
don't know. I don't
trying to remember
remember
the last ones that we
when you
did.
said it. Well, the Charlie Brown ones are the last one we did.
Before that, I think I did buy most of them.
Dune. So it was Dune.
Yeah.
Was the one before that.
So
And
I
Chris
do own
Nolan.
that. Yeah. So
God,
I
that
think
was forever
Dune was
ago.
the first one. I think because mid-Nolan, I was like, I should start buying these physically, so I just have them now. I can always pull them out. But from now on, I would like to do that. I could have done that with Street Fighter, but this was a little bit like we didn't know exactly when it was coming, so I just kind of threw it on tonight. Maybe I'll look up and see how much Lara Croft is. Maybe I can get it. Because if it's $10, even for a Blu-ray versus the $5 rental, what am I doing? You know, why not?
What are you doing?
What am I doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
But Gooch, play us out.
Yeah, that about does it for this episode of Rewind Review. We hope you enjoyed it. And make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you thought of Street Fighter, or if you have any cool Street Fighter stories about the movie. I'm sure there are some people with some good old memories we'd love to hear. But you can usually...
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Drew. You interrupted me. I was on a flow. You can usually find us streaming on twitch.tv.com. Well, twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. Anywhere podcasts are available. Just search Delco Nerd Network, or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network. We're at Delco Nerds at everywhere with an @ Facebook, Twitter, you know, all that jazz. But most importantly, I think you can find us in our Discord channel, where we're talking about all the stuff we're playing, reviewing, watching, doing, even some non-nerdy stuff. You can find the link for that in the description of this podcast, but also on our website, www.delconerds.com. You can also reach us at our email, delconerds@gmail.com. Questions, concerns, things for the good of the group. We'd love to hear from you. But my name is Anthony Ragucci. For Trio, this has been the Delco Nerd Network. Stay nerdy, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy, guys.